I never thought I'd find something that would change my life while cleaning out Grandpa's old study, but there it was, a letter that would tear my family apart. My name is Callie, and until last week, I was just the younger daughter trying to make her mark in our family's fashion business. The letter fell from between the pages of his favorite book on textile manufacturing. The paper was yellowed, but his handwriting was unmistakable, bold strokes that commanded attention, just like he did in life. "Need help with those boxes?" My father called from the doorway. "I'm good," I answered, already unfolding the letter with trembling fingers. "Just found something interesting." The first line made my heart stop. "My dearest Callie, if you're reading this, I've been gone for some time, and certain truths need to come to light." I sank into Grandpa's old leather chair, the one that still smelled faintly of his pipe tobacco. The words blurred as I read about his vision for the company's future, and his explicit wish for me to inherit a controlling share of Winslow Designs. "You've got your mother's eye for fashion and your father's business sense," he'd written. "But more importantly, you understand what this company means to the people who work here." Renee sees numbers. "You see, family." My half-sister Renee had been running the company since Grandpa died 3 years ago. She'd made it clear that my role was strictly limited to design work, nothing more. Now I understood why she'd been so adamant about keeping me away from the business side. "Callie." My mother's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, elegant as always in her tailored blazer. "We're ordering lunch. Do you want anything?" I quickly folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket. "I'll be down in a minute." She lingered, studying my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just feeling nostalgic," I lied, forcing a smile. "Found some old photos." After she left, I pulled out my phone and took pictures of the letter, my hands still shaking. Through the study's window, I could see Renee in the parking lot, pacing as she talked on her phone. She gestured sharply, her face tight with anger, a familiar sight lately. The sound of approaching footsteps made me look up. Graham from marketing stood in the doorway, his usual easy smile in place. "Your sister's on the warpath again. Something about quarterly projections. When isn't she?" I tried to sound casual, but my voice cracked slightly. He stepped into the room, lowering his voice. "Everything okay? You look like you've just discovered a family secret." If he only knew. "I'm fine," I said, standing up quickly. "Just dusty in here." Graham's eyes lingered on me for a moment too long, but he didn't push. "Well, if you need someone to talk to." "Thanks," I cut him off, perhaps too abruptly. My mind was already racing ahead, trying to process what this meant. The letter wasn't just about inheritance. It was proof that Renee had known about this all along. She must have hidden it after Grandpa died. As I watched her through the window, still on her phone, I remembered something else she'd said last week during a board meeting. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that protect the family legacy. Now I wondered exactly what she'd meant by that. The letter felt heavy in my pocket as I gathered my things to head downstairs. I had no idea how to handle this information, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same between us again. Through the window, I saw Renee end her call and look up at the study. Our eyes met briefly, and for a moment, I could have sworn she knew exactly what I'd found. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The game was about to begin, whether I was ready or not. I spent 3 days wrestling with what to do about Grandpa's letter before finally working up the courage to show it to my mother. The family conference room felt smaller than usual as I watched her read it, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping the paper tighter with each line. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice unnaturally calm. "In Grandpa's old study, while we were clearing it out." I fidgeted with my watch, a nervous habit I thought I'd broken years ago. "Mom, did you know about this?" Before she could answer, the door swung open. Renee strode in, followed by our father. Perfect timing as always. "Know about what?" Renee asked, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She froze when she saw the letter in Mom's hands. "Family meeting time, I guess," Dad said, closing the door behind him. He must have noticed the tension because he stayed standing, one hand on the back of Mom's chair. Mom handed the letter to Renee, who barely glanced at it before tossing it onto the conference table. "Oh, this old thing? I found it years ago. It's not legally binding." "You knew about it?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "And you didn't think to mention it?" "It was written when you were barely out of college, Callie. Grandpa was getting sentimental in his old age." Renee's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Besides, the board already approved the current leadership structure." "The board that you personally selected?" I couldn't help myself. Years of being sidelined bubbled to the surface. Girls, Mom interrupted, but her voice lacked its usual authority. She looked tired, older somehow. Dad cleared his throat. Maybe we should discuss this with the company lawyers. There's nothing to discuss, Renee said, checking her phone. We have more pressing matters. The show contract needs attention, and our Q3 projections. Stop deflecting, I cut in. This isn't about contracts or projections. This is about you hiding Grandpa's wishes. Renee's phone clattered onto the table. His wishes? You want to talk about wishes? I've spent the last decade building this company while you were off finding yourself at design school. That's not fair, Dad started, but Renee wasn't finished. Life isn't fair, Dad. I've earned my position. Every late night, every difficult decision, every sacrifice, that's what keeps this company running. Not some sentimental letter. Mom stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. Enough. Both of you. She turned to me, her expression softening. Callie, your grandfather loved you, but Renee's right. The company's current structure is legally established. The betrayal stung worse than I expected. So we're just going to ignore his wishes? We're going to do what's best for the company, Renee said, her composure returning. Speaking of which, I need to review your latest designs. The board has concerns about the direction of the new collection. I felt the blood drain from my face. My designs were the one thing I thought were safe from her interference. I haven't heard any concerns, Dad said, frowning. It's a recent development. Renee gathered her things. We'll discuss it in tomorrow's meeting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have calls to make. As she left, I caught a glimpse of Graham through the glass walls, watching our family drama unfold. He quickly looked away, but not before I saw the concern on his face. Mom touched my arm. Callie, honey, don't. I pulled away, gathering the letter from the table. I need some air. Outside the conference room, I heard Renee's voice from her office. Yes, everything's under control. The situation has been handled. I paused, wondering who she was talking to. Through the crack in her door, I could see her pacing, phone pressed to her ear. No, there won't be any changes to our arrangement. I'll make sure of it. What arrangement? And with whom? As I walked away, I realized something. Renee wasn't just protecting her position. She was hiding something bigger, something that made her willing to bury Grandpa's letter. And I was going to find out what it was, even if it meant risking everything I had left in this family. I wasn't supposed to be in the office that late, but I'd fallen behind on my designs after the family meeting drama. The empty building felt different at night. Quieter, but somehow more alive with secrets. That's when I heard voices from the conference room. The intellectual property transfer needs to happen before the end of the quarter. Renee's voice, sharp and clear. Monarch Fashions is getting impatient. I froze outside the door. Monarch Fashions was our biggest competitor. The board won't approve this, a man's voice responded. And your sister's designs are a significant part of the portfolio. My sister won't be an issue. Renee's tone made my blood run cold. Once the deal goes through, she'll have no choice but to accept it. My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp. The design review meeting tomorrow, it wasn't about quality concerns. She was planning to sell my work to our competitors. Someone's here. The man's voice dropped to a whisper. I ducked into the nearby supply closet, heart pounding. Footsteps passed by, then faded. When I finally emerged, shaking, I bumped straight into Graham. Jesus! I yelped, dropping my phone. Sorry. He caught it before it hit the ground. I thought I was the only one still here. His eyes narrowed. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I grabbed his arm. We need to talk. Not here. 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of a nearby bar. I told him everything, the letter, the family meeting, and what I'd just overheard. Graham ran a hand through his hair. That's corporate espionage. It's illegal. It's worse than that. I pulled out my phone, showing him photos of my latest designs. These aren't just clothes. They're an entirely new manufacturing process. More sustainable, more efficient. It could revolutionize the industry and make Monarch Fashions a fortune. Graham leaned back, whistling low. No wonder they're interested. I need proof. I wrapped my hands around my untouched beer, something concrete to show my parents. Graham was quiet for a moment. I might be able to help. Marketing gets copied on most executive communications. Give me a day or two. Why would you risk helping me? His eyes met mine. Because I've watched you pour your heart into this company while your sister treats it like a personal piggy bank. And maybe because he stopped, cleared his throat. Because it's the right thing to do. My phone buzzed, a text from Renee. Design review moved to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. She's moving fast, Graham muttered, reading over my shoulder. She knows I heard something. I stood up, suddenly feeling exposed. I need to get home. Back up my files before. Too late. Graham held up his phone, showing an internal IT notification. System maintenance tonight. All servers down for routine updates. She's deleting my work. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. Everything I've done for the past year. Not everything. Graham pulled out a USB drive. I backed up the design server last week for the marketing presentations. It's not current, but I hugged him before he could finish, surprising us both. When I pulled back, his face was flushed. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. He glanced at his phone again. The real question is, what are you going to do tomorrow morning? I thought about Grandpa's letter, about all the years of being pushed aside, about Renee's voice saying, my sister won't be an issue. I'm going to that meeting, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. But first, I need to make a call. To who? Martha Jenkins, our former head accountant. She left suddenly last year after a fight with Renee. I think it's time I found out why. As I left the bar, another text came through. This one from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow, 7 a.m., Carter's Diner. I have something you need to see. Martha. The game wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about survival, and I was done playing by Renee's rules. Carter's Diner looked exactly like the kind of place where secrets get shared over lukewarm coffee. Martha Jenkins sat in a corner booth, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, fingers drumming nervously on a thick manila envelope. You look just like your grandfather, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. He had that same look when something wasn't right. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Graham. Meeting delayed to 9 a.m. Renee called emergency board session first. Martha noticed my expression. Bad news. Just buying us some time. I gestured to the envelope. What did you find? She slid it across the table. Financial records from the last 18 months. Renee's been moving money through shell companies. At first, I thought it was just creative accounting, but then I found this. The documents showed a complex web of transactions, all leading to one destination, Monarch Fashions. She's been selling them information for over a year, Martha continued, her voice dropping. Design specifications, manufacturing processes, supplier contracts. But that's not the worst part. My coffee grew cold as Martha explained how Renee had been systematically undermining our company's value, making it ripe for a hostile takeover. My designs weren't just being sold. They were being used as leverage. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Martha's eyes dropped to her coffee. She threatened to expose some personal matters. My grandson's medical bills, some loans I took from the company. I'm not proud of staying quiet. My phone buzzed again. Graham. Board meeting getting heated. Your mother looks furious. Where are you? I have to go. I gathered the documents, but Martha caught my wrist. There's something else. She pulled out one last paper. Your grandfather's original will. The one Renee replaced after he died. My hands shook as I read it. The letter I'd found wasn't just a wish. It was legally binding. Renee had committed fraud. Why show me this now? Because yesterday, Renee started the process to dissolve the company entirely. Martha's voice cracked. Your grandfather built this company to last generations. He'd rather see it burn than become what Renee's planning. Outside the diner, Graham was waiting in his car. Your father's looking for you, he said as I got in. The board's voting on something big. I know what they're voting on. I showed him the documents. We need to make copies before. A car horn blared. Through the rearview mirror, I saw a black SUV accelerating toward us. Hold on. Graham swerved, barely avoiding the impact. The SUV scraped past us, then sped away. Was that Dash? Renee's car? I finished, my heart pounding. She must have followed me. Graham pulled into a side street, killing the engine. This isn't just business anymore, Callie. She's desperate. She should be. I pulled out my phone, dialing my father's number. It went straight to voicemail. What's your play? Graham asked softly. I stared at the documents in my lap. Proof of fraud, theft, and betrayal. Everything I needed to destroy my sister's life. But the cost. I can't let her sell the company, I said finally. But this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about protecting what Grandpa built. What our whole family built. Even if it tears that family apart? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Renee. Last chance, little sister. Walk away now, or everyone loses everything. Attached was a photo of our mother at her desk, head in her hands, looking broken. The message was clear. This would destroy her. She's trying to manipulate you, Graham said, reading over my shoulder. I know. I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. And she's about to learn that was a mistake. As we pulled back onto the main road toward the office, I realized something. Sometimes protecting your family means fighting them. And I was done playing defense. The board meeting was in 30 minutes. It was time to show Renee exactly what kind of sister she'd created. The boardroom felt like a powder keg when Graham and I arrived. Dad was pacing by the window. Mom sat rigid in her chair, and Renee stood at the head of the table mid-presentation. The screen behind her showed graphs of declining profits, graphs I now knew were manipulated. Nice of you to join us, Renee said, her smile razor-sharp. I was just explaining why selling to Monarch Fashions is our only viable option. I dropped Martha's envelope on the table. Funny, I was about to explain why that's fraud. The room went silent. Dad stopped pacing. Mom's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. These documents, I continued, spreading them across the table, show exactly how our company's been systematically undermined for the past 18 months. Careful, Kelly, Renee warned, but her composure cracked slightly. A board member picked up one of the papers. These transaction records. Are these authentic? Before Renee could respond, the boardroom door opened. Martha Jenkins walked in, followed by two men in suits. They're authentic, Martha said. And these gentlemen from the SEC would like to verify them. Renee's phone clattered to the floor. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out Grandpa's original will. Just like I understand why you replaced this after he died. Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. Renee, what is she talking about? She's desperate, Renee snapped. Making wild accusations because she's jealous. Miss Caldwell, one of the SEC agents cut in. We have some questions about certain offshore accounts linked to Monarch Fashions. The next few minutes were chaos. Board members arguing, agents asking questions, Dad trying to maintain order. Through it all, I watched my sister's carefully constructed world crumble. Then I saw her hand slip into her bag. Stop her, Graham shouted, but it was too late. Renee pulled out a USB drive and held it up like a weapon. You want to play hardball? Her voice shook. Fine. This drive contains evidence of every questionable decision this company has made for the past 30 years. Including yours, Mother. Mom went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Renee's laugh was hollow. We all go down together. That's what family means, right? I moved toward her slowly. This isn't about family for you. It never was. You don't know anything about family. She jabbed the drive in my direction. You were always the golden child, the one with natural talent. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? My shadow. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've controlled everything since Grandpa died. Because I had to. Her voice cracked. Because if I didn't prove I was better than you, they'd all see I was nothing but a mistake. The room went deadly quiet. Mom made a small, wounded sound. Miss Caldwell, the SEC agent said quietly, please hand over the drive. For a moment, I saw something break in my sister's eyes. Then she straightened, smoothing her jacket with trembling hands. You want to know the truth, little sister? She pressed the drive into my palm. Check the personnel files from 30 years ago. See what kind of family we really are. As the agents led her out, she paused at the door. I never wanted to hurt you, Kelly. I just couldn't let you win. Not again. The board meeting dissolved into emergency sessions. While lawyers and agents swarmed the building, I sat in Grandpa's old study, staring at the drive in my hands. You don't have to look, Graham said softly from the doorway. Yes, I do. I plugged in the drive. Whatever's in here, it's part of who we are. As the files loaded, I noticed Mom standing in the hallway, watching me with tears in her eyes. She knew what I was about to find. The truth about our family was just a click away, and I wasn't sure any of us were ready for it. The personnel files from 30 years ago lay scattered across Grandpa's desk like pieces of a broken mirror, each one reflecting an ugly truth. Mom stood in the doorway, her silence heavier than any explanation could be. You were his secretary, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Before you married Dad. Before you owned the company. Callie. And Renee. I held up the termination notice with trembling hands. Grandpa tried to force you to get rid of her. Mom's voice cracked. He said it would ruin the company's reputation. His reputation. The pieces clicked together like a grotesque puzzle. Renee wasn't just my half-sister. She was living proof of Grandpa's hypocrisy, of his affair with his young secretary before Mom married Dad. So you took over the company, I continued, the truth burning in my throat. You and Dad, you forced Grandpa out. To protect both of you. Mom stepped into the room, reaching for me, but I backed away. Everything I did was to give you both a chance. Stop. My hand slammed against the desk. Just stop lying. Grandpa's letter, the will, it wasn't about me being talented. It was guilt. He was trying to make amends. A knock at the door made us both jump. Graham stood there, his face grim. They're transferring Renee to custody. She's asking to see you, Callie. The police station's interview room was cold and sterile. Renee sat across from me, her designer suit replaced by standard issue clothes, her makeup smeared from crying. Now you know, she said quietly, why I could never be good enough. You didn't have to destroy the company, didn't I? Her laugh was bitter. Every time I walked these halls, I saw him. In the portraits, the plaques, the legacy everyone worshipped. The man who wanted me erased. So you decided to erase everything? I decided to build something of my own. She leaned forward. Monarch offered me control of their Asian division. No family strings, no ghosts. Just merit. By stealing our designs? My designs. Your designs. Renee's eyes flashed. Look at the drive again, sister dear. Look at the original sketches from Mom's early days. Your revolutionary techniques? They're all variations of her work. Work she did while carrying me, alone and scared, before your father saved her. The room spun slightly. I gripped the table's edge. We're more alike than you think, Callie, Renee continued. Both living in someone else's shadow. The difference is, I chose to step out of it. By committing fraud? By surviving. She stood up as the guard approached. You can keep the family legacy. I'm done pretending we were ever really family. Later, in Grandpa's study again, I found Graham reviewing the old sketches. He looked up as I entered. She was right, I said before he could speak. Everything I thought was mine, everything I was proud of, it's all built on lies. Callie. No. I started gathering the designs, my hands shaking. The company, the inheritance, all of it. It's poison. I can't. Stop. Graham caught my wrists. You're not thinking clearly, aren't I? I pulled away. My grandfather was a hypocrite who tried to erase his own daughter. My mother built her success on stolen designs. My sister's going to prison. Tell me, Graham, what part of this should I be thinking clearly about? Through the window, I could see the factory floor where generations of workers had built our family's dream. Now it all felt tainted. My phone buzzed, a message from Martha. There's something else you need to see. Something about your grandfather's final days. I almost deleted it. Almost walked away from all of it. But Renee's words echoed in my head. We're more alike than you think. Maybe that was what scared me most of all. What are you going to do? Graham asked softly. I stared at the message, feeling the weight of 3 generations of secrets pressing down on me. I'm going to find out how deep this really goes, I said. Even if it destroys what's left of us. Martha's final revelation hit like a thunderbolt in Grandpa's study. She handed me a worn leather journal, his private diary from his last months alive. He knew what Renee was planning, Martha said quietly. All of it. The Monarch deal. The company's dissolution. He knew because he'd tried the same thing 30 years ago. The diary entries detailed a failed attempt to sell the company to Monarch, back when Mom was just his secretary. He'd wanted to escape the scandal of her pregnancy with Renee. My phone buzzed, a text from Graham. Renee's being released on bail. She's heading to the office. I have to go. I clutched the journal. There's one more conversation we need to have. I found Renee in the design studio, methodically shredding sketches. Mom stood in the doorway, watching helplessly. You knew, I said, holding up the journal. You found this years ago, didn't you? Renee's hands stilled. Like grandfather, like granddaughter. Both of us trying to destroy what we couldn't control. That's not, isn't it? She turned, eyes blazing. You found his letter and immediately used it against me. Just like he tried to use Mom's pregnancy to force her out. Stop it, both of you. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. There's something you need to know. She pulled out an old envelope, yellowed with age. Your grandfather didn't write that inheritance letter to Callie. I did. The room went silent except for the hum of the shredder. What? Renee whispered. I forged it, Mom continued, because I knew what you were planning with Monarch. The same deal they offered your grandfather. The same deal that would have erased both of you from existence. My legs felt weak. Why didn't you just stop her? Because this company was built on secrets and control, Mom said. I wanted you both to choose differently. To be better than we were. Renee laughed, a hollow sound. Better? I was never even good enough. The unwanted child. The living reminder of scandal. You were everything. Mom's shout echoed off the walls. Everything I fought for. Everything I built this company to protect. Both of you were. Then why pit us against each other? I demanded. Because I was afraid. Mom's composure cracked. Afraid you'd both make the same mistakes I did. Choosing power over family. Control over love. Renee moved to the window, staring at the factory floor below. The Monarch deal isn't final yet. It doesn't matter, I said. The SEC. It matters. She turned back, her expression different somehow. Softer. Because I made the same offer to every board member Grandpa tried to sell to 30 years ago. They all kept his secret. And they'll keep ours. Understanding dawned. You weren't trying to destroy the company. I was trying to expose its foundation. She met Mom's eyes. So we could rebuild it. The right way this time. Mom stepped forward, reaching for both of us. For the first time in years, neither of us pulled away. Your grandfather's last entry, Martha said from the doorway, making us all jump. You should read it. I opened the journal to its final page. My greatest regret isn't the choices I made, but the legacy of fear I left my family. May they find the courage to choose love instead of power, truth instead of control. May they build something better than I ever could. Renee touched the page gently. We could, build something better. Together? I asked, hardly daring to hope. She smiled, a real smile this time. Well, you've got the talent, I've got the business sense, and Mom's got the original designs. Seems like a solid foundation. A new foundation, Mom corrected, squeezing our hands. Outside, the factory hummed with life. Generations of work, secrets, and hope woven into its very walls. But inside this room, something else was being built. Something stronger than revenge, more powerful than control. Something like forgiveness. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated design studio, watching workers install the new sign. Winslow and Caldwell Designs. The morning sun caught the letters, casting twin shadows across the floor. Still feels strange, doesn't it? Renee appeared beside me, coffee in hand. She looked different now, softer around the edges, but somehow stronger too. Good strange, I replied, accepting the second cup she offered. The SEC investigation had ended with a settlement and restructuring rather than criminal charges. Thanks partly to Mom's influence and partly to Renee's careful documentation of the board's past indiscretions. Sometimes leverage was better than revenge. The new collection's ready, Renee said, leading me to the workroom. Mom's original designs, your modern techniques. The perfect blend of past and future. The samples hung like promises on the racks, classic silhouettes reimagined, family heritage woven into every stitch. But something else caught my eye, a framed sketch on the wall. Is that Dash? Grandpa's first design, Mom said, entering behind us. From before he owned the factory, when he was just a tailor with dreams. And demons, Renee added quietly. Like all of us. Mom touched the frame gently. But we choose what to do with them. Graham appeared in the doorway, folders in hand. Boards ready for the presentation. Actually, I said, there's something else we need to do first. Later, we stood in the factory's main floor, surrounded by our workers, the real foundation of our family's legacy. Mom took the microphone first. 30 years ago, I made choices out of fear, she began. Today, my daughters are making different choices. Better ones. Renee stepped forward next. Starting today, every employee becomes a shareholder. This company's success should benefit everyone who builds it. The announcement was met with stunned silence, then growing applause. As I watched faces light up with hope and possibility, I felt something shift inside me, the last weight of revenge lifting, replaced by something lighter. There's one more thing, I added, unveiling the plaque we'd prepared. The Martha Jenkins Training Center, offering design and business education to all employees' children. Martha, standing in the crowd, pressed a hand to her mouth. Because family, Renee continued, isn't just about blood. It's about choice. After the celebration, I found myself back in Grandpa's study. My study now, shared with Renee. The old leather chair still held traces of pipe tobacco, but new memories were layering over the old. You know, Graham said from the doorway, when I first met you, I never thought this was how things would end up. Who says this is the end? I smiled, touching the journal on my desk. No longer Grandpa's secret diary, but our family's ongoing story. With blank pages waiting to be filled. Renee appeared behind Graham. Ready for tomorrow's meeting? Monarch's CEO wants to discuss a proper partnership this time. On our terms, I nodded. On family terms, Mom corrected, joining us. As they left, I noticed something tucked into the journal, a photo I'd never seen before. Young Mom, holding baby Renee, with Grandpa standing awkwardly beside them. On the back, in his bold handwriting, some mistakes become our greatest blessings, if we're brave enough to embrace them. I added the photo to our new company timeline. Right beside one taken this morning, Renee and me flanking Mom, all of us smiling real smiles. The factory hummed below. Its rhythm changed but familiar. Like our family, it was being rewoven into something new, something stronger. Not perfect, but authentic. Not flawless, but honest. Through the window, I watched our workers leaving for the day, many still discussing their new stake in the company's future. Some stopped to admire the new sign, its dual names gleaming in the setting sun. Revenge might have started this story, but love, complicated, messy, choosing to be better love, that's what would write its future chapters. And this time we'd write them together.